Welcome to the Business English Podcast. I'm Rob, and I'm thrilled you're joining me for today's episode titled, Working in a Team? Sound the Most Professional. Let me begin with a quick story. Picture Charlie, a bright, dedicated marketing professional from Italy who's been living in London for almost a year. He's got innovative ideas, a strong work ethic, and an eagerness to impress. But every time he steps into his Monday morning team meeting, he feels a knot in his stomach. He's terrified that his English won't sound polished enough to get his colleagues' full attention. Instead of feeling confident, he ends up second-guessing every phrase, worried he'll come across as too blunt or too timid. Sound familiar? Now, here's the big question. How can people like Charlie, or maybe you, communicate in a way that sounds authoritative while still being friendly and collaborative? In this episode, we'll explore the exact skill that can take you from, I'm not sure what you mean, to, yes, that's exactly right. Let's move forward with that idea. What is the magic element of speech? How can you get it right every time you speak up? Stay tuned because in the next few minutes, we'll dive straight into why this skill is so crucial when working with teams, how to apply it in real-world situations, and the most common mistakes to avoid. We'll also walk through some key phrases you can start using right away, phrases that'll help you sound more refined and professional from your very next conversation. Ready? Well, let's jump in because once you master this, you'll be able to share your insights with confidence, command the respect you deserve, and never again wonder if your words were lost in translation. Let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Business English Podcast, helping professionals communicate more effectively, more confidently, and with impact. With your host, Rob, from Energetic English. Let's get down to business. Now, in this segment, we're going to explore why today's skill, using polite yet direct language, matters so much in your daily work life. Imagine for a moment you're in a team meeting, your brilliant idea is right on the tip of your tongue, but you can't quite find the right words to convey your vision. You don't want to be overly pushy, but you also don't want to fade into the background. What's the perfect balance, and how could this skill be the key that transforms your entire professional presence? Think about it. When you speak up in a meeting or send out an email, how do your words land with others? Polite, direct communication can set the tone for collaboration and respect. Instead of sounding hesitant or unsure, you'll command the attention of colleagues, clients, and managers. Your team will trust your guidance because you come across as both approachable and decisive. In just a moment, I'm going to reveal some real-world use cases where this skill becomes absolutely critical. But before we dive in, have you ever wondered if you've unknowingly missed opportunities because you didn't sound confident enough? Picture these common situations. Team meetings, when you want to propose a new strategy or provide a quick update. Client calls, when you need to negotiate timelines, clarify misunderstandings, or calmly handle tricky questions. Or performance reviews, when it's time to highlight your accomplishments without sounding boastful or insecure. In each of these scenarios, being able to communicate your ideas and your value means everything. Get it right, and you become the go-to professional people rely on. Get it wrong, and you risk being overlooked. After all, can you really afford to stay quiet or stumble over your words when your next career step might be just one confident statement away? Keep listening because shortly we'll uncover exactly how to form these statements and phrases, and I promise it's simpler than you might think. Let's dive in. Okay, this is the part where we get practical. Before we dive into our key phrases, here's a quick heads up. Have you signed up for our weekly newsletter, the 3-Minute Minutes? It's packed with powerful professional resources, plus you'll get a transcript from a podcast episode, so head over to our website right after this show to stay ahead of the curve. Now, let's talk about how to form polite and direct statements that help you shine in team settings. I'll give you each phrase, then I'll pause so you can repeat it, and finally, I'll provide a quick scenario where you might use it. 1. Start with a polite opener. I'd like to suggest. I'd like to suggest. Scenario. Use this when proposing a new approach in a client meeting. For example, suggesting a more efficient marketing strategy. Could we consider? Could we consider? Scenario. Great for asking your team to explore an idea without sounding forceful, especially in brainstorming sessions or project kickoffs. The second area we're going to look at is providing concise context. So, given our recent findings, repeat after me, given our recent findings, scenario. This one is ideal for transitioning into a suggestion or decision based on data or feedback you've collected, say a sales team analyzing last quarter's performance, for example. Considering the feedback from clients, scenario. This one is perfect for when you need to explain the rationale behind a suggestion, especially if multiple stakeholders have shared their thoughts. And the third area we're going to look at is ending your dialogue with a call to action or invitation to collaborate. Let's discuss the next steps. Scenario. This is a powerful way to wrap up a pitch or proposal, moving the conversation from ideas to action. I'd love your input on how we could move forward. Repeat after me. I'd love your input on how we could move forward. Scenario. This phrase encourages team members to contribute and feel valued, especially in collaborative environments where collective buy-in is key. When you string these parts together, polite opener, concise context, and an invitation to collaborate, you'll sound both professional and approachable, which is absolutely key in the business world. But how can you make sure you don't slip into common mistakes or sound unnatural? Stay tuned because in a moment we'll uncover some typical errors people make and how you can avoid them. You won't want to miss it. Now it's time to tackle one of the biggest challenges we all face: avoiding common communication errors. Ever wonder if your words are making you sound too aggressive or too timid or just unclear? Let's find out. First up, being overly direct. For instance, saying, "We must do this now." This phrase might feel urgent, but it can also sound harsh, especially in a multicultural office where different tones carry different weights. The question is, how do you show urgency without stepping on toes? On the flip side, there's being too indirect, or worse, vague. Maybe you've said something like, "Maybe we could do something about it sometime," and notice everybody's eyes just glazing over around the table. Your audience may have no idea what you actually need from them, and your great idea ends up getting lost. So, how do you strike the perfect balance between overly forceful and hopelessly vague? Here are some quick tips. Number 1. Balance your tone. Use polite language, words like could and would, but don't be afraid to be clear about what you need. Number 2. Avoid filler words. Things like like, sort of, can reduce your credibility and make it seem like you're unsure of yourself. Thirdly, practice shadowing. By repeating after native speakers, like you did in the previous section, you'll build muscle memory for more natural, confident speech. Now let's translate these pitfalls into more effective phrases. Instead of "we must do this now," try I recommend we start working on this immediately to meet our deadline. And instead of maybe we could do something, try, could we explore this approach further to ensure we meet our goals? Notice how these alternatives are still direct but have a friendlier, more polished tone. Now, you may be thinking, will this really make people pay more attention to my ideas? Stay with me because in just a moment, we'll recap and wrap up with a powerful final takeaway to help you lock in these skills for good. And that wraps up today's episode of the Business English Podcast. I hope these insights on sounding more professional in team settings have given you fresh confidence for your next meeting or presentation. Now, remember, it's not just about the words you choose, but also the tone and clarity you bring to every interaction. If you found this episode helpful, why not share it with a colleague who might need a quick boost in their English communication skills? Don't forget, you can also sign up for our weekly newsletter, the 3-Minute Minutes, where you'll get even more valuable tips and a full transcript from an episode. So, until next time, keep practicing, keep refining, and of course, keep it strictly business.